One of my first sales coaches told me, if you can knock somebody's door and sell them something, then you can go into any form of sales. My original plan was to become a PE teacher, but when I was studying, I wanted to start my own business. Everything kind of led to learning sales skills and kind of being an expert in that.
What was it then that made you jump over to Dubai?
It was quite impulsive. If I was going to do it, I had to do it sooner rather than later. But I'm glad it was impulsive, because I think if I had a summer to think about it or a year to think about it, I'd have probably just kept putting it off. The entry level in Dubai compared to the UK, it's completely different. So you are dealing with a completely different clientele of investor. You can enter the market in the UK for 30 grand. That's over here, you're looking at 150 minimum.
Let's run through that first deal. How did it come about?
Say to Jake.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the First Deal Files. Today I'm joined by Jamie, who left behind a career in real estate to embark on an exciting journey into the Dubai market. Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jamie, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background, where you came from.
Yeah, so I started sales not long after I left studying. And then maybe a year later, got my first real estate job selling investment properties. And then again, a year after that, I'm here. So seems to be coming in phases quite quick.
Okay, so it's fair to say that you've had some sales experience in the past then?
Yeah, my original plan was to become a PE teacher. But when I was studying, I wanted to start my own business. But everything kind of led to learning sales skills and kind of being an expert in that. So I literally stopped studying, got a job knocking doors, selling door-to-door sales. And then maybe 9 months to a year later, got my first job in real estate.
Do you think that had a positive impact on moving out here?
Yeah, 100%. One of my first sales coaches told me, if you can knock somebody's door and sell them something, then you can go into any form of sales, whether it's low ticket, high ticket, and sell something. So, especially in Scotland when the weather's not the greatest. So, that definitely set me up for a good start in real estate. My last company, which was pretty good, got thrown right into the deep end, going from low ticket sales into high ticket sales. So it was a good transition that I felt was beneficial.
What was it then that made you jump over to Dubai?
To be fully honest with you, it wasn't in my mind seriously. I've always thought about it, I'll do it next year, I'll do it a year after. But a colleague that I used to work with in my old company actually worked for Espace. And after having a conversation with him, one phone call with Katie, one phone call with Jake, I was out. So I think I started speaking to Espace probably February time. It was actually in Amsterdam. And then a couple of phone calls later, I was out here by 17th of March. So transition time was not long at all.
And was it quite a big leap, leaving everything behind at home to move out to Dubai and start fresh?
In terms of, I was still staying at home, still quite young. I'm only 21, so I didn't have a lot at home to leave, which obviously you've got family and stuff like that. But in terms of leaving a career behind, I was still early on in my real estate career. So I felt like if it was a good time, if I was going to do it, I had to do it sooner rather than later. Because I didn't want to think back and think, I should have went when I had the chance. So it was quite impulsive, but I'm glad it was impulsive, because I think if I had a summer to think about it or a year to think about it, I'd have probably just kept putting it off.
So you said there about obviously the turnaround time being quite quick.
Yeah.
Did you manage to speak to any other brokerages before you came out, or was it purely Espace that you went for?
I didn't have plans on it. And then when I spoke to Espace, I started venturing at different countries. Like I was speaking to a company in New York, and I was also speaking to a company in Canada. But I said this to Jake as well on an interview, weighing up the options. The companies didn't compare to what Espace could offer. So it was quite an easy decision.
So what was it that stood out to you about Espace then?
Just the high detail of training. Like obviously Jordan being my mentor, top performer, and the off-plan team coming in, and he's my mentor for my first 3 deals. So getting put under supervision of one of the best in the team kind of gives you a bit of guidance. You're not just getting through in and you've got to figure it out for yourself. Obviously, you've got a full week with Daniela, learning legislations, learning the CRM system that we've got, and then we're up with yourself, learning on the phones, obviously, different techniques.
What is it that stood out to you about Espace then?
Yeah, so obviously, Jordan being my mentor was probably the biggest thing. Obviously, coming over, I've got real estate experience, but it's a completely different market. So coming in and Jordan being my mentor, kind of guiding me through each process as I go along, and obviously seeing in real time how he's dealing with his clients, how he's dealing with even just his day. But also the training program. We're in training for 2 weeks. First week, obviously learning CRM systems, learning legislations, different stuff like that. And then obviously up on the sales floor with yourself, getting stuck right into it. So to have that kind of guidance, a lot of other brokers that I spoke to kind of just got given a laptop and told to kind of go. Obviously it's a commission-only job, so that's setting you up for your finances. So,
and would you say that the transition between the UK market and the Dubai market was maybe there was a downside to that compared to people who are coming completely fresh?
Yeah, I would have said so, because I do have old habits that I learned back in the UK that just can't be transferred over here. But at the same time, it was beneficial. Obviously, knowing how to speak to investors and obviously having that sales experience in this kind of high ticket sales. But even the entry level in Dubai compared to the UK, it's completely different. So you are dealing with a completely different clientele of investor.
Yeah.
You can enter the market in the UK for 30 grand, whereas over here you're looking at 150 minimum.
So let's talk about the first few weeks. Yeah. How did you find the first few weeks? Were the highs, the lows?
Yeah.
Run us through that.
It did fly in, to be completely honest. We landed on Saturday morning. It was an overnight flight, and then we had started on Monday. So it was all guns blazing to start with, which again I think was positive. Didn't have time to kind of think and contemplate it. It was just straight into business. The
first deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, it came around very quickly.
Yeah.
I think you definitely left a lot of the management here very impressed, especially Jake himself. So let's run through that first deal. How did it come about?
Yeah. I said to Jake on my first interview, I was going to close a deal in the first 4 weeks.
And that you did.
And I did it. So just kind of, that's probably a benefit I had, my network back home. I knew this guy for quite some time, and he was on holiday with his family. Let me know that he was in Dubai. Went, met. It took us longer to get the deal done than it should have. Made offers on previous different properties. And then we looked at the off-plan market, weighing up what's going to be beneficial for him, whether it's going to be his rental return or the capital growth that we could see in certain areas. Once we weighed the options up, we just went straight for an off-plan project in Emar South, which is a great area for longevity. And then right after that, we went on to the next.
Now, after you signed that first deal, how did you feel?
That was so good. Especially the timing of it. It was a Friday. We were finishing early to go to the Q1 rewards. So it couldn't have been timed any better.
What was one thing that you didn't expect in this job? Was there anything that sort of took you by surprise?
What took me by surprise is, like, obviously, even Jake as director, and being so involved with the team, especially as well as Jordan, obviously, as my mentor, but how hands-on he is, and even in and outside of work, making sure that if I need anything, they're there for it. And in work, just guiding me through every single process, and even telling me their techniques. They're not kind of gatekeeping anything, which you find in sales offices a lot. As soon as somebody finds out what's working for them, they don't tell anybody else. But with kind of Jake and Jordan, it's like, here's your resources, we'll help you as much as possible, and to get the deals over the line. I think that was a big impact on how I got my deal so quickly, because I didn't have to figure anything out for myself. It was if I needed something, one message away, and then it was done. And
what would you say the biggest challenge has been in the first few weeks / few months? Because obviously you've been here for 2 months now, I think.
Completely honest with you, my Scottish accent on the phones, but adapted quite well to it. But and kind of seriously, I don't think a lot of people understand when you do take the leap. Yeah, it is all guns blazing, but real estate's 100 mile an hour, and so is Dubai. So you've not got a minute to yourself. So it is about just try to sit back and compose yourself. Well, we're in a busy city and we're in a busy market, so there's no slowing down.
So let's say someone's watching this that's thinking about taking the leap. What advice would you give them?
I would say do it. Like, what have you got to lose? If you come out here for 3 months, you could potentially change your life forever. And worst case scenario, you've had a class 3 months holiday and great experience. So for me, there's no downside to coming out here and giving it a bash.
And let's say someone's fresh into the job. They've been on the floor for 2 weeks, just come out of training, sat with us. What advice would you give them?
My advice would be, don't lift your head from a computer till you've got a deal. Everybody's deals comes at different waves, whether it's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. But everybody that's here as that's a kind of veteran in here, their deals didn't all come at the same time. And look at them now. So it's just about, can you fight through them tough times to get your first deal? And then when they first come, then it just falls in from there.
Well, I think we've got an exciting career ahead of us, to say the least. So, Jamie, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for watching the first Deal Files, and tune in for more episodes.